From the Fans Talk Podcast family at fanstalkpodcast.com, this is episode 31 of Fans Talk Lucha, and today we recap and review Lucha Underground Season 2, Episode 1, which aired on Wednesday, January 27, 2016. My name is Garvin. With us always is my wife. Say hello, wife.
Hello, wife.
It's been a while.
It has.
It's been a while since we finally got the new season back. I know I've been looking forward to watching Lucha Underground again. This episode of Fans Talk Lucha has been brought to you by our friends over in the Squared Circle of Trust. You can subscribe today for as little as $1 a month to receive early access to all of our episodes, as well as exclusive content made only for your ears. You can head on over to fanstalklucha.com, click the big green button, and support us today. So, I don't know about you. Did you watch any of the past episodes to kind of get reacquainted with everything before you watched this week's?
No, I was afraid I would end up comparing it too much to previous episodes, and I wanted to approach Season 2 with new eyes, because people were all over Twitter talking about how good it was.
Yeah. I would say, and just so everyone is aware, Lucha Underground airs on Wednesday. We don't necessarily get the opportunity to watch it until Friday. That's how it was all of last season. This episode we didn't even watch until today being Saturday. So avoiding all the conversations on whether it's the Facebook group or on our Twitter stream was really, really difficult. The Slack community for the Squared Circle of Trust was really hard to ignore.
I didn't even look at it. And I had to unfollow some people I follow on Twitter because they wouldn't stop sharing pictures and things.
Yeah, following, just because I stopped really using Facebook a whole lot. Now I'm using Instagram, and of course I follow the Lucha Underground Instagram account, and that was very spoiler heavy this week.
It's hard because I know they pre-record their shows, so they got to be excited to release their content, but for those of us who are behind, or even just their regular community who aren't there in the temple at the time they're doing it, it's hard for us because you see things and you're like, no, I'm gonna drink to forget this.
Yeah. Speaking of drink, Vampiro and Matt Stryker did acknowledge the drinking game once again and hit us pretty hard with about like 6 brothers in the first 2 minutes of commentary.
I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, they referenced it. They said the drinking game has started. Then they hit us with like 6 brothers. And then I didn't notice it the rest of the show, to be honest.
You know, we can't be the only podcast talking about doing a drinking game. Whenever something becomes popular, people make a drinking game. So we haven't done that yet.
All right, so let's go ahead and run down the show. By the way, I did not watch any past episodes. However, I did catch the final 3 minutes or so of the final episode of the first season, which was just like everyone saying goodbye. So that was a nice like reintroduction for me, just to get back into what stories we ended with. But we opened up with Vampiro being evaluated by the psych ward.
Oh no, there was stuff that happened before that.
Well, what?
Well, there was a vignette where...
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the final 3 minutes of the first season.
Oh, is that part of it?
Yeah.
That wasn't the beginning of the new episode?
No. There was a good 3 minutes. It caught me off guard too. It was the first 3 minutes, or the last 3 minutes of the final episode. So yeah, it was man, a
lot is happening in this episode.
Yeah, so yeah, it was like a recap of where things were going when we left off. So this episode started with the Vampiro segment where he's basically in some kind of psych ward, mental hospital, or I don't know. I'm not really familiar with those settings, so I don't know necessarily what that was. But I think it was like a psych ward of some sort. So anyways.
I thought this was the best little video package that we've seen so far. Of all their video packages, the quality of the filming was fantastic. Vampiro is a wonderful actor. There's a point where he you see his thoughts, but you don't realize they're his thoughts.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was like I was watching a movie.
Yeah, to me, the worst part of it was the fighting sequence of it, just because it was more of your movie style. So yeah, you're right. It was very cinematic. I thought it was really well done up until he started slamming the doctor's head onto the table, and it was it was lame. It was very lame, at least how they shot it. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a good way to reintroduce the character. It's actually kind of I don't know. It makes me curious if they'll explain how he got from the end of the first season to that point.
Oh, I'm sure it'll come up, especially now that he's back on commentary and they kind of have little asides to each other. I'm sure that we'll hear that story through comments.
Yeah, and it would also be curious to see who, made that happen, just because he seemed to be, the good guy that went back into his, violent tendencies, to then be forced to go to a psych ward. Seems like someone else got involved to, stop that.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe he's just a dude struggling with some problems. They give him antipsychotics. The fact that those exist mean that there are probably a lot of people like that wandering around with those kind of thoughts that we don't even know about. And if those things are so readily available, why isn't Marty the Moth on antipsychotics? He clearly needs them.
Yeah.
And Vampiro at the end, he tells them, "Oh yeah, I got someone to pick me up." And they cut to the scene. He's in the desert, and there's this car under a tarp. And I'm thinking, if this is his ride, if he arrived at the psych ward, is the psych ward in the middle of the desert? And then why would he cover his car with the tarp? What is going on?
Yeah,
Who is that guy?
Well, no, it's like Matt Stryker drives his car into the middle of the desert, puts a blanket on top. Yeah, he puts a blanket on top of it, and then stands there and waits.
It was a sweet-looking car, but because it was under a tarp, I was expecting a surprise, like maybe Black Lotus hiding in the back seat, or like a giant cake with a stripper in it, and it was just a car. Yeah, nice car. Okay.
All right, so we cut back into the temple. Katrina is talking to Phoenix. Katrina now has bangs, which is it's an interesting look for her.
I like it. She looks like Cleopatra, which is appropriate because now she's in charge.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like that needs explanation too. Like, yes, in the final episode we did see Cueto run off, but that meant that he gave up ownership of the company. It seems kind of odd. Like, Puma never took over.
Explained it.
Yeah, like when Puma was champion, him and Conan didn't take over.
I'm thinking that we probably missed something that happens quite frequently that we'll miss, like the last 2 minutes of something, or something I'm sure explained that transfer of power. But yeah. I was a little surprised by it too.
Yeah, but it is very cool. Overall, Katrina is basically the mouthpiece in charge. And then Mil Muertes sits on a throne and watches the entire event. Like,
good
above.
Job if he can get it.
Yeah, so he's got a quality seat, no one in front of him. But he's got to sit there in his ring gear the whole time. I'm sure that's kind of uncomfortable.
Oh, I doubt it. I mean, it's just a mask and some leggings.
Well, sure, but what's that chair made out of? It can't be leather. That would be unbearable.
I don't know, it seems like they're into pain. They keep making mention that this is going to be the most violent and bloodthirsty season yet. So, he could be sitting on a bed of nails for all we know.
True.
He's into that sort
It didn't look like nails, though. It looked like red velvet or something. All right. King Cuerno versus Phoenix. That was the first match. Gift of the Gods. Title is on the line. What did you think of the match?
I was a little disappointed with it. I love both of them. I love Cuerno's hero move, and I love Phoenix's jumping corkscrew thingy that he does. But there was so much mat work in it, and I'm used to seeing a little more high flying and gymnastics from these two. They both seemed a little bigger, like they've been putting on some muscle for this, and I wonder if I don't know what they're planning to do later in the season, but we definitely saw more submission moves and stuff that we're not used to seeing from these two, stuff that I'm used to seeing from larger wrestlers, and that's not really the stuff that I like.
Well, King Cuerno is one of the larger wrestlers.
Yes, but he's also so limber usually for a guy his size.
Yeah.
And I don't think he displayed as much of that as he did last season.
Yeah, for me, it was a good match, but I'm with you. You were almost kind of expecting more of the more traditional Lucha Libre style as far as the flippy stuff, and yeah, we really didn't get that.
I was surprised to see Phoenix kick him in the face, too. That's the type of dirty move we're not used to seeing out of Phoenix.
Well, I mean, which time? Because there was the counter
Right in
and
the face.
no, I know, but I mean there was the counter when he was running into the corner.
That was the one. That was the one
Okay.
specifically that I thought, oh, that's unusual for him.
But no, it's a super kick. That's the move. That's a move you do.
Right in the face. No, I'm used to Phoenix being more of a good guy. I still like him.
Well, I don't think that necessarily changes his allegiance by kicking a dude in the face.
I don't know. I think, in wrestling, there's fair wrestling and there's unfair wrestling, and they're both equally valid, but we're used to seeing, we're not used to seeing the dick punches and the face kicks out of people like Phoenix.
Okay. What did you think about King Cuerno's new finisher?
The standing 69 head drop thing? What's the technical
The
term?
way I wrote it was a spinning package tombstone.
Yeah. I was too busy giggling like a 12-year-old to really appreciate it for its merit.
I do appreciate that explanation of it, though.
I thought it's a good thing they're the first match and their junk's not all sweaty because both of them have the terrible vantage point. And that's a move you're doing blind, so I imagine that it takes a lot of skill not to injure your partner there, but yeah, I don't I giggled the whole time.
No, it's actually pretty impressive how they did it, just because if you compare that to the normal tombstone that you see, which is the finisher for the Undertaker. Undertaker's landing on his knees, and the guy's head is nowhere even close to the mat at that point. But this was Cuerno's knees hit the ground, and Phoenix's shoulders hit the mat.
Oh, it looked dangerous.
Yeah.
And I felt pained for Phoenix just watching it. I know he's a professional, but it still made me cringe a little. It looked so dangerous.
Okay. Well, next up we had hashtag Team Fight basically arrive, and for those who don't remember, that is Angelico, Ivelisse, and Son of Havoc. And they arrived and basically were given the opportunity by Katrina and Mill to fight one another. They weren't into that idea because they had spent the last year, building this friendship bond. And, however, a title shot was put on the line, so they were like, yeah, okay, that sounds fine. So we got that match. It was Son of Havoc versus Angelico versus Ivelisse. Overall, what'd you think?
Oh, I love watching these three, whether they're fighting each other or fighting as a team. Shout out to Ivelisse for putting those pants on without sticking her leg through one of those holes. I don't know how she did it. I can't even rip fishnets without sticking my toes through the holes.
I'm sure it's
pants that they were large cutout sections, and I was kind of fascinated by that. I thought that seems uncomfortable to wrestle with.
I'm sure it's a much more involved process. Like maybe those straps are a little bit looser, and then once the pants come on, they can tighten them up like shoelaces.
Put into wearing pants.
Hey.
And Angelico had some new hairstyle going. I did not like it.
Yeah, it was almost like that Seth Rollins type of white streak in a brown hair.
I think it's that I don't like long hair on guy wrestlers. They don't take care of their hair as well as female wrestlers do, or any woman really. So on guys, it tends to get really sweaty really fast, and it looks straggly and gross. With the dark roots, he kind of reminded me a little of Dolph Ziggler, who I think looks like he's got chlamydia. So I would urge Angelico to reconsider the hair. I'm sure it looks great when he's out on the town, but in the ring, it looked kind of gross. Son of Havoc's beard was looking pretty sweet, bigger and better than we've ever seen it. I do think it's funny that he says he's from the open road, because we all know he's a dude from Cleveland, and it's more like he's from roads filled with construction.
Well, but compared to other big cities, There isn't a lot of traffic in Cleveland, so...
No, you can't get through there is no traffic because it's all construction barrels.
Yeah, but, outside of the barrels, it's pretty open.
If you don't cut the barrels, you're the people shutting down the highway to protest. Our traffic situation is totally cool.
Yeah. All right, so Ivelisse won. Were you surprised?
I was not surprised. They all did a wonderful job. One thing they do really well is they manage where their bodies are in the ring. So whenever you've got two wrestlers fighting against each other, the third wrestler does a great job of still looking like they're acting as part of it, but stepping back and taking themselves away from the camera so your attention isn't on them the whole time. So it's very well staged and very well managed.
It's called resting. They're resting while the other two attack each other. It's not staged. This is real.
But I don't know, just they do a good job of getting in their high energy and then getting the hell out of the way really fast. These three are very good at it. Like, you always know, your eyes are always where you're supposed to be. Sometimes I have a problem with more than two people in a ring because I don't know what to look at. It's confusing. There's too much going on. But these three always do a really nice job of working around each other. So I liked the match a lot. I wasn't surprised Ivelisse won, but I was surprised because commentary had gotten better for a while. Right at the very end, one of the bar announcers, and I don't remember which guy, he said something like, "Oh, it's pretty sad. He's losing a match to a girl. Good Lord." Really? Like, I thought after season 1 we were over this.
Wait, who said that?
One of the announcers said it.
Oh, I missed it. I thought it was the one thing that I noticed as far as like psychology goes was just the fact that anytime Angelico like went to attack someone and missed and hit another person instead, we saw that 3 or 4 times where he went after Son of Havoc, but Son of Havoc ducked, and like that huge crushing flying knee in the corner that hit Ivelisse. He checked to make sure Ivelisse was okay. And then the same thing on the other side. He went after Ivelisse, hit Son of Havoc, and then made sure Son of Havoc was okay. It's just kind of odd.
Yeah, I think they just work really well together as a team professionally.
Yeah.
And I know that there's, they're still friends. They're forced to wrestle each other, so they're checking on each other. But I'm always impressed by these three.
Yeah, it was...
I was not impressed by the announcers.
Yeah, it was...
They really kind of ruined that. And then afterwards, they're like, They called her young lady, like, this young lady's the next contender, something like that. And I thought, she is a grown-ass woman who just wanted a match against 2 guys. Show a little more respect.
Well, would it have been better if they said young wrestler?
Why do they have to make a comment at all? Just say, wow, what a great athlete. But as a woman who gets called young lady quite a bit, even though I'm in my 30s, it's a really grating thing here. It's definitely someone speaking down to you, whether or not they realize it. In their head, everything you do is amazing because you're such a delicate young lady, and that's kind of offensive. You wouldn't stand there, say if Angelico or Son of Havoc won and said, "This nice young gentleman just won the match." You'd say, "Wow, that guy did a fantastic job." That's what you'd say.
So I took it differently. I took it as if they were mostly, coming from that surprise that, here is Ivelisse that we hadn't really seen a whole lot from as far as wrestling goes. And, she is still pretty much a rookie as far as wrestlers go, like in real life. She's only been in Lucha Underground for a year. Prior to that, she did some indie stuff for maybe a year, but she is really new. So,
sure, but this is not the first win that she's had against a man on Lucha Underground.
Yes, that's accurate. This one carries more weight. A, it was a triple threat match, and B, it was a chance to fight for the top title. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you could look at it as with the negative connotation that you've felt, but overall, I think it was just more along the lines of this is completely unexpected, and she, while deserving, is still green.
Sure, and I suppose I wouldn't have felt so negatively about the young lady comment if it hadn't come seconds after he's losing a match to a girl. Good Lord, I think that's really what set the tone for the rest of the commentary on that match.
Yeah, so I didn't catch that, but I will say this was This was by far the best match of the night.
Absolutely.
And
it was my favorite.
Also, Ivelisse showed she was one of the better wrestlers on the roster. And we haven't really been able to see that yet, because it was more of like that awkward style of wrestling going up against Son of Havoc or going up against Angelico where he wasn't really interested in competing with her. So, and then she busted her leg. So we really hadn't seen her all of season 1. So for season 2 to start with Ivelisse as one of the main focal points and in the main event for the title, that's huge. Like how awesome is it that you've got Ivelisse in the main event in the first episode back, the premiere.
No, this was a big deal. I agree. She did a wonderful job. The crowd was overwhelmingly in favor of Ivelisse.
Yeah. So we had some other stuff happen in the backstage, but I just want to skip that for now because right after that match, we pretty much went into the main event, Ivelisse versus Mil Muertes, and I thought this match was handled very well if you consider, what we've seen, last season. So last season was very heavy on the where you had the male versus female matchups, but it was always like the women getting pissed off because the men don't take them seriously and don't necessarily want to compete against them and are just toying with them. This, as well as the match prior to that, it did really feel like they were kind of on equal ground, and Mil didn't step into like that general stereotype that we normally see. He stayed within the normal realm of his character.
This was a good match, and I like the way they did it. Ivelisse, I think, is, just from what we've seen, I think she's much more athletic than Mil. Mil's big advantage is his size, and they use that. So there was a lot of standing where Ivelisse tried to do submission holds while sort of clinging to Mil. When I try to take my brother down, we sort of have a similar size difference, and that's what I do. I'll leap on his back and try to choke him, because realistically, that's what you would do with that kind of size difference. They didn't just have her jumping across the ring trying to kick him, which we've seen in the past. So it definitely looked like she had, at least at the beginning there, like she did have a chance of winning. I actually thought she was going to win this one when we first started out. She came out very strong. Yeah,
and being able to use like the MMA defense that she has, taking Mil's arm into an arm breaker as a defense to him trying to choke her out, I thought was very, very appropriate. And it did really look like there was plenty of opportunities for her to win, which was stunning. It makes you wonder how big she's going to be this season.
There were a number of near wins in this match. A number of them. And, it was going well, and then Katrina decided to get involved.
Which, luckily, didn't necessarily mean anything. She tried to get involved, but all it ended up doing was causing her to get speared by Mil. So distracted.
It's knocked out a lot.
Yeah, so it was more of a distraction for Mil than it was for Ivelisse.
But for me, it seemed like that was the turning point in the match. Almost immediately after Katrina got knocked down, it was like Mil got a second wind, and that's when he won. It ended pretty quickly after that. So, Mil Muertes retains the Lucha Underground Championship. Quick predictions. Do you think Ivelisse is... Do you think that she has the potential to be the first woman champion? Absolutely. I think they're setting her up for it.
Okay. All right, so the last thing we'll talk about is the whole Black Lotus bit. So before this last match, Black Lotus met 3 guys who were looking for directions to an underground fighting ring that they've heard about, something about a temple. She says to follow them. So after that, as we're closing out the show, it's basically her walking with them towards a temple of sorts. It's basically like a second temple almost. Cueto is standing there on the outside. There's a chalk drawing of the Lucha Underground mask. And yeah, so it almost looks like they're introducing 3 new characters, 3 new potential wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up charging them $20 a piece to enter what can be, assumed their death as their sacrifice to his brother. Is that what you got out of that?
Absolutely. I thought these guys are idiots from the start. They're in the desert. They approach a strange woman. She says, "Oh yeah, follow me." Then she beats them up after they're talking to Cueto, and then they still pay him money. What? Those guys were idiots, and they deserve to die.
Well, they knew it was going to be sketchy going in just because it was an underground fighting ring, so, anything could have been appropriate. So, one thing we didn't talk about, and we should real quick, the fact that, the main event didn't just end with the win. You also had Prince Puma sliding in to make the save so that Mil Muertes and Katrina don't continue the attack on Ivelisse. You also have Pentagon Jr. come in and attack Mil Muertes, breaking his arm.
That was his best fake arm break yet.
It was an arm break. Definitely breaking.
You know what I'm saying? In the past, we have sort of laughed because the arm breaks never really... we're not sold on the arm breaks. Well, I thought he did a much better job.
I think we're just
much more realistic.
I think we're just acknowledging that we don't, we're not doctors, so we don't know how long it actually takes to heal a broken arm. It could just be a hairline fracture. That could be a 2-3 week, time frame.
Really? I'm not a doctor, but I think if you hairline fractured your arm and then went back to wrestling, your doctor would probably stop giving you medical advice.
Well, but at the same time, you gotta figure this isn't your corporate structure with health insurance and whatnot. Even though the corporate structure doesn't have health insurance, but still,
and he does have magical healing stones. The power of the Aztecs.
Well,
they're like those crystals people wore in the 90s.
There's that, but there's also just the idea that this is an underground fighting thing. So you're there not necessarily to be a wrestler. You're there to fight and be champion. It's different. I
did think it was interesting that Pentagon came out of nowhere to break Mil's arm. It seems like usually he picks the arm break for someone he's got some kind of personal beef with, and I wasn't aware that he had a problem with Mil.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to be in charge.
Well, I think it's that, or he wants to, be champion, but also rid Mil Muertes from the throne so that Vampiro can take it.
I don't know that I'd be comfortable seeing the kind of leadership that we would get from a man who needs to take and probably isn't taking antipsychotic medication. I would not invest in that company.
But you would invest in it if Cueto is still the owner, or...
I love Cueto. He's the best boss ever. You know my theory that he was secretly the world's best manager. I'd be honored to work for Cueto.
Alright, so Lucha Underground Episode 1, Season 2. Overall, do you feel like it was a good way to kick off the new season?
I do. I think it was a good intro to whatever they've got coming up.
Okay. Any final thoughts?
No, let's go to win Phil.
Alright, what's your win of the week?
It was the Son of Havoc, Ivelisse, and Angelico match. It was great. I love watching them.
Yeah, I think my win is going to go to... I think my win... Well, actually, you know what? My win really is that opening segment. I think that was a great way to open. Vampiro, I thought, was very good. Just like the cinematic style, the way they put that all together, I thought was great.
And he's a great actor.
Yeah, and again, huge props to Ivelisse, too. Fail, what was the worst part of this week?
My fail was the announcers and their diminishing language towards Ivelisse, whether it was meant to be that way or not. It still stuck out to me, especially since we'd seen so much equality in the last season, and I thought we'd kind of gotten past it for season 2. That's what I'd hoped.
Yeah, I'm just looking over everything that happened. We didn't necessarily mention that King Cuerno was backstage with Katrina briefly, where she reminded him of a deal that they had he told her not to worry, but no accent, it didn't sound like, and wore the cowboy hat with the lucha mask.
Oh yeah, he looked terrible in that cowboy hat. What was that about?
Bad look. Yeah, that's a bad look for him. So that's gonna be my fail of the week.
I think my tie for fail of the week, I'll probably get crap for this, but I'm just not sold on Katrina's acting.
I thought she was much better. And I thought I don't know, maybe it's just my memory, maybe it's the bangs, but she looks trimmed up. She looks like she lost 10, 15.
Well, I wonder if they're grooming her to step into the ring herself, and I understand she's an athlete first, not necessarily an actress, and I'm a terrible actress myself, so but I wasn't sold she had a lot of lines this time, and I wasn't quite there. I think she's getting there, but I think we could see more dominance out of her.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't like her getting in the ring just to get speared.
Yeah, that was dumb.
I'm hoping that they develop that a bit better. That she's actually like controlling things with those stones, or that she does have some kind of mystical power. I think that would be cool. But her just like getting in the ring, only to get taken down, it showed like a lack of power or a lack of control.
She's supposed to be one half of the team that's controlling Lucha Underground right now, and that was a really stupid move.
Yeah.
You never would have seen that out of Cueto.
For sure. Alright, this series, as well as the rest of the podcast, released through fanstalkpodcast.com, are supported exclusively by our Patreon subscribers. You can subscribe today for as little as $1 a month to receive early access to our content, as well as get your ears on some exclusive content that we produce throughout the month. For the wife, my name is Garvin, and we'll see you next time. Adios.
Bye.
Fans Talk Lucha is part of the Fans Talk Podcast family and can be found at fanstalklucha.com. Fans Talk Podcast family is a subsidiary of Tigar Creative, LLC.